Today we're going to read Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge by Mem Fox. There was once a small boy called Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and what's more, he wasn't very old either. His house was next door to an old people's home, and he knew all the people who lived there. He liked Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. He listened to Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. He played with Mr. Tippet, who was crazy about cricket. He ran errands for Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. He admired Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. But his favorite person of all was Miss Nancy Allison Delacour Cooper, because she had four names just as he did. He called her Miss Nancy and told her all his secrets. One day, Wilfred Gordon heard his mother and father talking about Miss Nancy. Poor old thing, said his mother. Why is she a poor old thing? Asked Wilfred Gordon. Because she's lost her memory, said his father. It isn't surprising, said his mother. After all, she is 96. What's a memory? Asked Wilfred Gordon. He was always asking questions. Well, it's something you remember, said his father. But Wilfred Gordon wanted to know more, so he called on Mrs. Jordan, who played the organ. What's a memory? He asked. Something warm, my child, something warm. He called on Mr. Hosking, who told him scary stories. What's a memory? He asked. Why, something from long ago, me lad. Something from long ago. He called on Mr. Tippet, who was crazy about cricket. What's a memory? He asked. Something that makes you cry, my boy. Something that makes you cry. He called on Miss Mitchell, who walked with a wooden stick. What's a memory? He asked. What's something that makes you laugh, my darling? Something that makes you laugh. He called on Mr. Drysdale, who had a voice like a giant. What's a memory? He asked. Something as precious as gold. Something as precious as gold. So Wilfred Gordon went home again to look for memories for Miss Nancy because she had lost her own. He looked for the shoebox of shells he had found long ago last summer and put them gently in a basket. He found the puppet on strings which always made everyone laugh, and he put that in the basket too. He remembered with sadness the medal which his grandfather had given him, and he placed it gently next to the shells. Next, he found his football, which was as precious as gold. And last of all, on his way to Miss Nancy's, he went into the hen house and took a fresh, warm egg from under a hen. Then Wilfred Gordon called on Miss Nancy and gave her each thing one by one. What a dear, strange child to bring me all these wonderful things, thought Miss Nancy. Then she started to remember. She held the warm egg and told Wilfred Gordon about the tiny speckled blue eggs she had once found in a bird's nest in her aunt's garden. She put a shell to her ear and remembered going to the beach by tram long ago, and how hot she had felt in her button-up boots. She touched the metal and talked sadly of a big brother she loved who had gone to war and never returned. She smiled at the puppet on strings and remembered the one she had shown to her sister, and how she had laughed with her mouth full of porridge. She bounced the football to Wilfred Gordon and remembered the day she had met him and all the secrets they had told. And the two of them smiled and smiled because Miss Nancy's memory had been found again by a small boy who wasn't very old either. In week one, we talked about the acronym RULER: recognizing emotion, understanding emotion, labeling emotion, expressing emotion, and regulating the emotion. Wilfred Gordon recognized emotion, but not in the traditional way. He was able to recognize an emotion in Miss Nancy not because of something that she said or did, but because he used empathy. He heard his parents talking about how Miss Nancy had lost her memories. So, by putting himself in her shoes, he must have thought, how does she feel because she lost her memories? And my guess is that he probably felt that she needed to be cheered up. She needed a little bit more pleasantness. So he decided that he was going to collect some memories of his own to bring to her. So the first thing he did was he wanted to understand what memories were. So he went around and found out that memories were something that made you laugh, memories could be something that made you cry, and that memories were very precious. So he went around his house to grab things that made him laugh, that he found precious, so that he could help Miss Nancy by giving her his memories. And he's young, so he doesn't fully understand that that's not exactly what they mean when they say give memories, but he was still showing empathy to be a good friend. So he grabbed an egg, a puppet, some shells, and he brought them to Miss Nancy. And when he brought them to Miss Nancy, she was able to remember things from her past because of those objects. And in doing so, Wilfred Gordon helped a friend. So when we talk about recognizing emotions, it's important to recognize emotions in self and in others. Last week in the book Wings, our narrator recognized that Icarus was feeling sad and lonely. So she made him feel better by telling him how great flying was, and she also was able to recognize that other people being mean was not a very nice thing to do, and she even wished that she stood up for him. In this book, Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, Miss Nancy didn't look sad. She didn't say that she was sad. But Wilfred Gordon still was able to show empathy based on what his parents said. So today's assignment is to think about a time that you were able to show empathy and recognize how someone was feeling. I would like you to write about a time that you noticed someone close to you was feeling in the red or blue on the mood meter. How did you know they were feeling this way? What did you do to help them move towards the green or the yellow? So, in last week's book, the narrator noticed that Icarus was feeling low and lonely and sad. His body language showed that he was not very happy. People were mean to him. So our narrator was able to recognize that he was in the blue. So to move him towards the yellow or the green, she started to make him feel included. She started to make him feel as though him being different wasn't a bad thing, but in fact, a pretty cool thing. So I want you to do this today, and I want you to think about a time that you were able to do that same thing, showing empathy. How did you know that they needed some help? And what did you do to help them? Boys and girls, I hope you have a great weekend.